Have you ever had one of those nights where something just feels off from the start? That was me. Late one Saturday night in the fall of 2017. I was working delivery for a local pizza joint called Teddy's Pizza in this small town in upstate Michigan, not too far from the edge of a big forest preserve. Most of our customers were regulars, so it was always easy going, until this one order came in. My cousin Danny was running the counter that night. We were the only ones on shift. He looked up from the register and said, "Got a weird one. No name, just says 2 cheese pies, paid in cash. The address is kinda out there." He handed me a receipt with the address and a phone number scribbled on it. I took a look and groaned. It wasn't even a real street name, just something like Briar Trail. That usually meant dirt roads, no street signs, and maybe one house every 10 miles. My phone didn't get service out there, and even though I had Google Maps downloaded, it couldn't help much in dead zones. Still, it was the last delivery of the night, and I figured I'd just get it done and head home. I tossed the pizzas in the passenger seat, grabbed my ratty old flashlight just in case, and hit the road. As soon as I turned off the main highway, things got weird. The paved road gave way to gravel, then dirt. The trees got thicker. My headlights caught glimpses of strange shapes, wooden signs nailed to trees, animal bones hanging from string. Even a child's plastic rocking horse tipped over in the ditch. I kept telling myself just old junk, nothing weird, but it didn't help. The further I went, the more it felt like the woods were swallowing my car whole. Eventually, I pulled off to the side, checked the paper again, and decided to call the number. It rang 7, 8 times. No voicemail. Then just when I was about to hang up, someone answered, but they didn't say anything. I waited. "Hello?" I said. There was a pause. Then the voice replied, mimicking me. "Hello?" It was deep and whispery, like someone trying to sound friendly but completely missing the mark. I cleared my throat and said, "Hey, I'm the pizza guy. I'm just having a hard time finding your place." After a moment, the voice answered, slow and even. "Drive until the road ends. Then turn onto the trail. You'll see a red can nailed to a tree. That's our driveway," and that was it. He hung up. I wasn't thrilled, but I followed the directions. The road did end, and sure enough, there was a rusty red gas can nailed to a tree like some kind of creepy marker. I turned onto the trail. My tires crunched over twigs and dead leaves, the car rocking with every bump. I had to go real slow. After a couple minutes, a house came into view. It was tiny and slumped like it had been forgotten for years. There were no lights outside, just the faint flicker of something orange coming from one of the windows. I parked next to a beat-up truck with flat tires and moss on the hood. Grabbing the pizzas, I stepped up to the porch. No doorbell, so I knocked. The wood under my feet creaked like it might give way. Inside, I heard scratchy old music like something off a gramophone. Violins, maybe. Definitely not modern. Then came footsteps. Slow. Heavy. They stopped right behind the door. It creaked open just an inch or two. I could only see part of a face, an eye, and a bit of pale skin. The person stood there without saying anything. I forced a smile. "Hey, got your pizzas?" He nodded slowly. "Yes, the pizza." There was a long pause. I asked, "You got the cash?" He said, "Let me get it," and disappeared into the house. The door didn't close. It actually opened a little more, like it was waiting for me. I stood there holding the boxes, trying not to look inside, but I couldn't help it. The room was dim, lit by the glow of an oil lamp. The furniture looked like it belonged in a museum. There were weird metal sheets on the floor, like someone had tried to cover holes. The smell coming out of the house was awful. Rotting meat mixed with something sharp and chemical. I gagged and turned away, trying to breathe through my mouth. Minutes passed. Nothing. I leaned toward the open door and called out, "Sir?" A voice called back from deeper inside. "Yes. Can you come into the kitchen, please?" Every instinct I had screamed, "Nope." I remembered Danny always telling me, "Don't go into people's houses. If they don't come out, just leave." But something about the way the guy said it, like he was already expecting me to ignore that advice, I said, "Sorry, I really can't. Store policy." But he didn't respond. Then something moved. Out of the corner of my eye, down the hallway to the left, a figure appeared. It was a man barefoot, slowly dancing, but not like normal dancing. He was gently stroking his arms, swaying almost like he was trying to comfort himself. His face was turned away, but the way he moved was completely unnatural, jerky like a puppet on strings. I froze. Then from the kitchen doorway the first man appeared again, this time with just part of his face visible, peeking from behind the wall. Still that same eye. Still silent, I whispered, "Do you have the money?" No answer. Instead he let out this strange sound. Not quite a laugh, not quite a groan. It was deep and wet and shivery, like something caught in his throat. Then suddenly he shouted, loud and sharp, "Clayton!" I jumped, my hands nearly dropped the pizzas. That was enough. I turned, stepped off the porch and fast walked back to my car. I didn't run. Running felt dangerous, like it might set something off. I got in, tossed the pizzas on the seat and locked the doors. As I was backing up, I looked one last time at the house. The front door, wide open again. I couldn't see anyone at first, but then just for a second I thought I saw a second face lower to the ground like someone crawling, just inside the doorway. I didn't wait to find out. I slammed it into drive and tore down that dirt path, fishtailing through mud and leaves until I made it back to the main road. Back at Teddy's, Danny saw my face and said, "You look like you saw a ghost." I told him everything. He didn't laugh. Neither did I. He just shook his head and said, "Next time I'm taking the last delivery." I've never forgotten that house. Never forgotten that eye watching me. The music, the smell, the weird dance, and the worst part, every now and then I'll be dreaming, just dreaming something normal, and suddenly out of nowhere, that same face appears, peeking around a corner, watching, just watching. Let me tell you about something that happened to me last year. I haven't shared this with many people, mostly because it still gives me the chills just thinking about it, but maybe writing it down will help me stop replaying it in my head every time I ride alone at night. At the time, I was 18, living in a small town called Willow Creek, Ohio. It's one of those places where nothing really happens, quiet streets, friendly neighbors. The kind of town where people leave their doors unlocked, or at least they used to. I worked part-time delivering sandwiches for a place called Benny's Subs. They made me ride one of those old-school delivery bikes with the giant front basket, even though it squeaked louder than a haunted attic. Most nights were boring, except when the local community college had something going on. Then the town would suddenly get loud and messy with students stumbling out of bars or blasting music from house parties. Anyway, this happened on a Wednesday night in early May 2022. I was finishing up the late shift, 7 p.m. to 1 a.m. I was beyond ready to go home. My feet hurt, I was sweaty, and all I wanted was to crawl into bed and forget that greasy smell Benny's Subs had soaked into my hoodie. I had just put my helmet down when the manager, Rick, called out, "One last order." "You're up, Jordan," I groaned. "Come on, man. It's 12:52. He just shrugged and handed me the receipt. I didn't really have a choice, so I grabbed the bag and hopped on my bike. The address was just 10 minutes away, some house near the woods on Elm Ridge Drive. I'd been down there a few times. The houses are older, kind of tucked back from the road with big yards and tall trees that always seem to whisper when the wind hits just right. As I pedaled down the empty street, everything felt off. There was no wind, no crickets, no cars. Just me, my squeaky bike, and the soft hum of distant streetlights. When I reached the house, it looked totally dark, like no one was home. I checked the number twice. It matched. I knocked on the door. Nothing. I knocked again, harder this time. Still nothing. Annoyed, I pulled out my phone and called the number on the receipt. It rang once, then went straight to voicemail. That's when I noticed something strange. Across the street, behind some overgrown hedges, there was a shape just sitting there. At first I thought it was a lawn ornament or a trash can, but as my eyes adjusted, I realized it was someone crouching. Not moving. Just crouched low, like they were hiding right or watching. I tried to act normal, pretending I hadn't seen them, and knocked again. My hands were starting to sweat, and I kept glancing sideways to see if the figure moved. It didn't. But something about the stillness made my skin crawl. I couldn't see the face. Just a dark hoodie pulled up, legs bent weird, and this eerie sense that whoever it was staring right at me. Finally, after what felt like forever, the door creaked open. A guy stood there, maybe college age, rubbing his eyes like he'd just woken up. He looked surprised to see me. "You order subs?" I asked, trying to keep my voice casual. He blinked. "No, man. That must have been my roommate. He's upstairs and probably passed out." He stepped aside and called up the stairs, no answer. He groaned and said, "I'll go get him," and disappeared inside. The moment he shut the door behind him, I heard it. The sound of leaves crunching. I turned, heart hammering. The figure across the street had moved. Not much, maybe a few feet forward. But it was closer, and it was still crouching, still watching. My stomach dropped. I wanted to bolt, to just jump on my bike and ride like hell. But I was scared that if I did, I'd turn my back and that thing, that person, would come after me. I thought about knocking again and asking to wait inside, but my bike was everything. Without it, I couldn't work. I couldn't risk someone stealing it. And besides, I didn't want to look like I was freaking out over nothing. The guy came back and said, "He locked his door. Won't wake up. You want me to sign for it or something?" I practically shoved the bag into his hands. "Yeah, please, just sign it." He hesitated. "There's no tip." "Dude, I don't care," I said, trying not to look panicked. He finally scribbled a signature and I muttered a quick thanks before rushing to my bike. I put the kickstand up and was just about to pedal off when I heard a sharp snap. I turned my head, and that figure was charging at me. No more crouching. No more hiding. He was running full speed from the bushes, feet pounding the ground, arms pumping. I caught a glimpse of his face, or rather, the mask over it. White, featureless, just eye holes. And in his hand, I swear on everything I love, there was a knife. Long, shiny, and glinting in the moonlight. I didn't think. I just pedaled. I couldn't make a U-turn. The street was too narrow and he was too close. I headed straight for the bike trail that ran behind the neighborhood, cutting through the woods. It wasn't lit and I didn't have a headlight, but I knew the trail by heart. As I hit the dirt path, darkness swallowed me. The air turned colder, and every tree branch looked like a hand reaching out to grab me. I pushed harder, the wheels bouncing over roots and gravel, ears straining for footsteps behind me. I couldn't hear him anymore, but that didn't mean he was gone. I imagined him stepping into the trail ahead, just waiting for me in the dark. Every flicker of shadow made me flinch. I thought I saw something dart across the path, but it was just a deer, I think. I didn't stop until I burst out of the trail onto the back road near Benny's. I skidded into the parking lot, heart pounding like it wanted out of my chest. I jumped off the bike and stared behind me, waiting to see if I'd been followed. Nothing. I waited 5 minutes. 10. Still nothing. I didn't tell Rick or anyone at the shop. I just clocked out, stuffed my bike in the trunk and drove home. Locked every door. Closed every blind. I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that mask. Those empty eyes, and the worst part? I have no idea who it was. No clue if they were trying to rob me or hurt me or something worse. They didn't say a word, just watched, waited, then ran. I never took a night shift again after that. These days, if I have to deliver late, I carry a flashlight and a metal baton in my bag. Not that I ever want to use them. Willow Creek still feels like a safe place. But after that night, I don't trust the quiet anymore. I don't trust dark streets. I don't trust houses with all the lights off. And I definitely don't trust people who hide in bushes without blinking. Because that night, I learned something I can't forget. Sometimes, the scariest thing isn't a ghost or a monster. It's the person who waits in the dark, just to see what you'll do. Let me tell you about the scariest thing that ever happened to me. It still gives me chills just thinking about it, and I don't scare easily. At the time I was 23, living with my cousin Nick in a little town called Fallbrook, Oregon. I was delivering food for a gig app called Dash Drop, basically the same thing as Uber Eats. It was 2022 and I was working late shifts to help cover rent and student debt. You know, that classic just trying to survive life. I usually took late night shifts. Less traffic, more bonuses, fewer annoying people. I liked the quiet of the roads when most folks were asleep. It gave me time to think, even if I was tired half the time. One night in October, just a week before Halloween, I got an order around 11:45 p.m. It was from a fried chicken joint on the south side of town. The delivery was for some address about 25 minutes away, way out past the farmland and toward the edge of the woods. I didn't think much of it at the time. Orders out that way weren't super common, but they weren't exactly rare either. I picked up the food and followed the app's directions. Pretty soon, I left the city lights behind and drove deeper into the countryside. The streetlights disappeared one by one until there was nothing but my headlights and darkness. It was a cloudy night. No stars, no moon, just black sky pressing down on the winding road ahead of me. Every tree I passed looked like it could reach out and grab me. The road narrowed the farther I went, and the houses got fewer and farther between. Eventually, the app told me to turn onto a dead-end gravel road called Lantern Hollow Lane. I remember hesitating at the turn. There was a busted wooden sign at the start of the road, half covered in moss. The kind of place you'd expect to see in a ghost story, but I turned anyway. The customer had already messaged me saying, "Thanks. Can't wait," and I didn't want to tank my ratings. The gravel crunched under my tires as I crept down the road. Tall, spindly pine trees lined both sides, leaning in like they were eavesdropping. My high beams lit up thick brush and shadows. It felt like I'd driven into a different world. No phone service, no GPS after the turn, just that last saved pin on the map and blind trust. After about half a mile, I reached the end of the road. There was one house sitting crookedly on a plot of land that looked like it hadn't been touched in years. The place was totally dark. No porch light, no lights in the windows, not even the faint blue glow of a TV. Just dead silence. Even the grass was creepy, waist-high, patchy, dry in some spots, soaking wet in others like it had just rained in a single square of land. I had to park right in front because there wasn't really a driveway, just mud and gravel. I kept the engine running at first. I didn't like the vibe and I didn't want to get stuck, but I told myself I was being dramatic. Grabbed the food, turned on my phone flashlight, and started walking to the porch. The air was colder than it should have been, sharp and still. I swear I heard faint rustling in the trees like something was circling. But when I stopped walking, the noise stopped too. There wasn't a single light on in or around the house, not even one of those motion lights you usually see on country homes. I rang the doorbell, nothing, not even a sound. I knocked. Still nothing. The app said it was a hand-it-to-me delivery, which meant the customer was supposed to come to the door. I sent them a message. "Hey, I'm here at your door. Just want to confirm this is the right place." Seconds later, I got a reply. "Give me a sec." That was weirdly fast, like they were already watching me. I waited for a minute, staring at the windows, expecting someone to turn on a light or open the door. But nothing happened. The silence was so heavy it made my ears ring. I messaged again. "Just want to double check. Can you confirm the address?" They started typing and typing and typing. Finally, the message came through. "I see you. You're at the right house." I stopped breathing for a second. The words didn't feel right. They felt too personal, like they weren't just saying it. Like they meant it in a way that sent goosebumps crawling up my arms. I looked around. Still couldn't see anyone. No movement. No shadows. Just my own shaky breath fogging in the cold. I asked, "What kind of car do you see out here?" Just to be sure, they replied, "I see your light." That was it. I started backing away from the porch. I didn't like having my back to that front door anymore. It felt like something was watching me from the cracks in the wood. Then I heard a voice from the trees. It wasn't loud. Just a whisper, almost playful. "Over here." I spun around with my flashlight, scanning the bushes and trees. Nothing. The light bounced off the leaves and branches, but there was no one there. I called out, "I'm just leaving the food on the porch, all right?" My voice cracked a little. No reply. I turned around to walk back to my car, trying to keep calm. My footsteps were loud on the gravel, and I kept thinking I heard another set of steps right behind mine. But whenever I turned around, there was nothing there. When I finally reached the car, I heard this sharp hissing sound. I knew that sound. Air escaping from a tire. I dropped the food and ran around to the driver's side. Both tires on the left were slashed. Long, clean cuts, still hissing. I jumped into the car and locked the doors, then I saw them. One, then two, then four people, stepping out from the shadows. One at each window of my car, all of them wearing these creepy white masks, like the kind you'd see in an old haunted theater. No eye holes, just blank, cold faces. I couldn't breathe. One of them knocked slowly on the window next to me. Just tap, tap, tap. Then another one spoke low and muffled. "Get out of the car," I shouted. "Do you just want money?" "I'll give you everything I have, just don't hurt me." One of them nodded. "Give us what you got and we let you go." I didn't believe them, but what choice did I have? Hands shaking, I unlocked the door. The second I did, the one next to me yanked it open and pulled me out hard. I hit the ground. They kicked me, punched me, stomped on my ribs and legs. I covered my head and begged them to stop. They took everything. My phone, my watch, my wallet, my shoes. Even random stuff from the glove box. I remember hearing them laugh. Then they were gone, just like that. Vanished into the woods. I lay there in the wet grass, hurting all over. Then everything went black. I must have passed out for a while because when I woke up, it was even darker than before. My body hurt everywhere. My keys were gone too. I had nothing. Just me in the cold. I limped toward the only bit of light I could see, a porch light far up the road. I don't know how long it took me to reach it, but when I got there, I rang the bell over and over until someone answered. A middle-aged woman peeked out through the curtain. I must have looked awful. I told her I'd been robbed and needed to call the cops. Thankfully, she let me use her phone. The police came about 15 minutes later. They took down everything I could remember and called a tow truck for my car. My cousin Nick picked me up afterward and took me home. Later, detectives looked into the Dash Drop account that placed the order. It belonged to some guy named Eli who had reported his phone and wallet stolen the day before. The people who attacked me had used his stolen info to set the whole thing up. The house? Empty, listed for sale. No one had lived there in years. The creepiest part? My phone was never found. The last signal it gave was from a mile down the road, and then it went silent forever. Like it just disappeared. I didn't deliver anything for a long time after that. And even now, I only take orders in the daytime and never ever to places without a porch light.